live. Looking forward to some people joining, hopefully, at some point. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see if people are joining. Hopefully they are. What we should have done, or what I should have done, is ask someone to check whether if they can join and if we're live or not. How can I do that?
I can check on my phone.
Yeah, I thought I can just check on here. Yeah, on my phone. It's a good idea. It looks like there's one person watching. Hello, one person. Oh no, they've gone away. 0 now. I think it'll take a while for people to join.
No, it says 24 here.
Oh wow. Oh right, yes, we are live. We are live. Well, I wish I knew how many people were on the stream because it doesn't tell me. Can you tell? Oh yeah, look, I can see people saying hi on my phone.
Oh, it says 24 here.
Right, well, we're so professional. Look at us. Yeah, so how do I see the chat then? No, not that. Well, welcome everybody. As you can tell, it's the first time I've ever run a webinar, and I feel very sorry for Nicola being my guinea pig.
You've been making me laugh all day. It's
the first time. Where is the chat?
I can see it.
Oh, can you? Oh my God. I can't see it. So what do I do about that?
I don't know.
No, I don't know either. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We'll get going in a minute. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for people to join. So if you can see the chat, Nicola, can you tell me how many people are joining? Oh, there's the chat. Oh, I found it.
Yay.
Apologies, everybody.
Oh, you're so funny. Oh, my goodness.
20 people on. Okay, thanks very much, Denise. Oh, hello. Right, I can see everyone joining now. Thank you so much, everyone. And apologies for being such a bit flaky in running my first ever webinar. And so I can see Jen. Hi, Jen. Welcome. Amal, Denise, John, Marjolina, Bruce, Syed. Oh, Zaki. Hi, and Denise. 30 people on. Thanks very much, Denise. So, well, this is very exciting. And yeah, we'll just wait another couple of minutes, I think. And it's 3 minutes past. So we wait till 5 past maybe. And then we'll get started properly. Thanks so much for joining us today. Yeah, this is a bit of an experiment. So, hi, Denise. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But nice to see some people I know. Hey, what was that, Nicola?
I decided to be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Poor Nicola's my guinea pig this week. I'll get so much more professional as time goes on. I mean, the idea was to have a bit of fun as well. So look, that's what we're doing here. So you're in the right place. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining. Welcome. So we'll get going in about a minute's time, I think. See if anyone else joins. How are we doing, Denise? You're you're the person that's letting me know how many people we've got. Thanks very much, LinkedIn user. I don't know who you are. It's interesting to see the chat here. And nice to see some people that I know. Zaki from Durham Uni, Bruce Lloyd, Jen, one of our amazing Tech Up women, doing it extremely well in her career now. Maybe you can come on a future podcast if my lack of professionalism doesn't put you off, Jen. Okay, right, I'm going to get rid of this slide that we've got here, and then hopefully, there we go. Right, here we are. So welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm delighted to be here with Nicola today. My name's Sue Black. I'm Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist at Durham University, and I've done loads of other things besides. And I've had about a 30-year career in tech now. And I put this post up on LinkedIn about 6 weeks ago, I think, which I'll just read out to let you know how come I've started a webinar. I put, can you help? I've overcome so many challenges in my life from escaping an abusive home twice, to getting a degree and PhD in my 30s, having left school at 16 with few qualifications. Sometimes I still can't believe I'm now Professor of Computer Science, keynote speaker, trustee at Comic Relief. I've got 6 honorary doctorates, which I can't believe, mother of 4 and grandmother of 6. I could go on. There are so many things that we can achieve if we have the right environment and the right support. Over the last 25 years, I've created several networks and programs to change the lives of women, to help them achieve their potential. During that time, I've often wondered what else I could do to support and empower women to overcome their challenges and achieve success. If I can do it, so can you, which is my kind of like signature keynote talk title. What could I do to help you? I'd love to know. Could you please take 2 minutes to answer these questions? It will help me so much. Thanks so much, Sue. So I put that post up and had, I think, about 75 responses, which is amazing. And one of the things that I put in the questions was, you know, what would you like me to do? And quite a lot of people said, set up a webinar series. So here we are. Yeah, I'm just absolutely delighted to have Nicola, my lovely friend and poor guinea pig for this first webinar, joining me here today. So Nicola, I think we must have met through the BCS a few years ago. I'm guessing now, I can't even remember.
So, but I'm not sure. I think we probably knew of each other, but yeah, definitely firmly met.
We knew of you before we actually got to chat to each other, but probably through the British Computer Society, I think. And Nicola's chair of the BCS Special Interest Group in software testing, and does so much more besides. Amazing woman in tech. But, you know, I could talk about Nicola all day, but I thought it'd probably be better to get Nicola to introduce herself, because I'll mess it all up anyway.
You did a great job.
So, oh, amazing. 45 people now on. Thanks very much, Denise and Shireen. Hi, Shireen. Lovely to see you. Shireen was my student back in about 2000. So lovely for you to join us today, Shireen. So over to you, Nicola. Tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Okay, so you gave a little bit about me, but I have around 2 decades, just a little bit over, of experience in tech. I've actually been working since I was 18, but in tech for the last 23, 24 years. I've worked in tons of different industries. I always say that the only ones I probably haven't worked in are anything to do with tobacco and petrol. I think probably the only oil. I haven't done that. But I've worked in, it seems like, every other industry, lots of government projects, lots of media projects, especially. I've worked in civil aviation. And more recently, I've worked in AI and data science and in that area. But my other volunteer work, I do a lot. So Sue mentioned that I'm the chair of the Special Interest Group in Software Testing, SIGIST for BCS. But I'm also a member of the BCS Women Committee as well. I've been a member since, I think, about 2020. Well, I've been a member of BCS for a lot longer, but I think I've been part of that committee, BCS Women, since about 2020. And then I do lots of volunteering with other groups outside as well. I'm a fellow of the BCS and the Women's Engineering Society. I'm a member of council for BCS, and I've been a council member for other groups as well. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I speak, I do more volunteering, I'm a panelist, I've judged competitions, and yeah, all kinds of good stuff.
So all the different industries that you were just talking about, were you working in tech in all of those?
Yeah.
Okay, so what sort of roles have you
so I've done every test role that there possibly could be. I've been a project manager before. I've done business analysis as well for a while. I found I didn't really like business analysis as much as I like being in testing, but I found, because I was a contractor for years, I think maybe 12 years, 11 or 12 years as contractor, and it allowed me to work across different projects. I just picked projects that I knew I would like, and then obviously was lucky enough to get the role. So I've done tons and tons of different roles within banking, wealth management, and all different areas of finance. And then, as I say, I've done worked for Civil Aviation Authority for a couple of years. That was ages ago. But I've also worked on really interesting stuff like PlayStation. I worked for them for a long time at Sony Computer Entertainment.
Okay.
And yeah, I've worked in lots of different areas and media.
So they're mainly testing roles then?
Yeah. Just moving from different company to different company. But yeah, as I say, I've done other roles as well, as and when they came up. So it may be that, if I got a contract, I'd start off as a BA and then roll into the fact that I actually had these other skills. So stayed on to do testing and things like that. So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I hadn't realised you worked in so many different industries. So, I mean, like when I talk to you, it's obvious you've got loads of experience of all different sorts of things across the years. So,
I
which
used
do
to
you
be a
think was
conference organizer many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in events.
I've done that.
Yeah, everything.
So how long have you been in testing then? So you weren't in testing right at the beginning, were you?
Oh, I was. That was probably my first.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, actually, that's not true. My first ever role, I was a BA. Didn't know what it was, and working on an acquisition for a publishing company. And I really didn't understand, because I always explain to people, when I was younger, you could walk out of a job on a Friday and walk into a job on a Monday. And I went to an agency and they said, do you want to go and do this job? They actually sold it as an admin role. And it wasn't that at all. It was a BA role.
Right.
And I had to catch up very quickly and figure out what I was doing. It wasn't as process driven as it is now, and I was able to pick up the skills I needed, and I stayed there for a while. But I found I still enjoyed that, but I didn't think that I knew there were other roles. By the time I left that job, I knew there were other roles in tech that I could potentially get. And then my next role was a project administrator role, actually. And then I got to work with systems administrators and all different roles, systems architects, developers, all kinds of different roles. And by working very closely with them, I was able to pick up the skills that maybe they thought I needed. I was actually just doing a lot of the admin, but then also doing user testing as well. So that's how I found out about software testing. And then through being mentored by one of the systems architects, he said to me, you've really got an analytical mind. I think you lend yourself well to doing testing. Okay. But I still didn't really have an idea what that was. I knew I was doing something to do with making sure the system was correct before it went out to users, but I wasn't entirely sure what it was. And anyway, I did at the time, it wasn't ISTQB, but I did the ISEB foundation. And then that gave me a bit of grounding and understanding in what it was I was actually doing for a job. And I was able to take some of the things I'd learned in the training and apply that, or see that I was doing that at work as well, and make it a bit more formal.
Okay, that's really cool. So what would you say, if someone's thinking about becoming a software tester, what sort of personality or, like kind of mindset do you think is good for someone who goes into being a software tester?
It's definitely the analytical mindset, but the situation that I found, where I found myself in a software testing role all those years ago, is very different to now. And you need to be really on top of your training now to make sure that your skills align, because more companies than not are following agile ways of working. So you have to make sure that your skill set is something that can be aligned with the engineering teams that you're moving into. Automation is obviously huge. Data, if that you can get any skills in data analysis, for example, they're all massive skill sets. But if you can take bits of those, obviously your engineering skills, your developer skills, if you can, try and hone in on those. And even to the point of, if you want to be a well-rounded quality engineer, I would also suggest looking at a platform team, so DevOps, and looking to pick up the skills that they have as well. Not to maybe the level that they have, because that's a different area altogether, but certainly being able to, and I see Jen's writing here. You do she's right. You do have to have a critical and analytical mindset, and always be asking questions about things that you're being asked to do or the work that you're looking at. And if you can do that, if you find that you have that kind of mindset, then you will absolutely love software testing and love quality as well. And be better able to, make sure that your teams are thinking with a quality mindset as well.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. And so when you're talking about software quality and software testing, is in industry, if you work as a software tester, you're normally in the software quality part of the organization. Is that how it works?
It depends on the organization setup. So
Okay.
years ago, if the methodology being followed was waterfall, you tended to have a
Back in the
separate team.
day.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
had a separate team that did testing or
right.
quality. Now that we're obviously, as I say, moving more into agile ways of working, in fact, most companies do have some
Yeah.
level of that or a mixture of both. I've heard it called wagile and all kinds of mix up, mash up names.
Yeah.
Um, you know, with that being the case, there's less likelihood that you'll have a whole team doing quality
Right.
unless it's in a bigger company. But
Yeah.
in a startup environment, you're probably going to be part of either embedded 1 or 2 resources within a team of maybe 10 developers,
Yeah.
or you'll be somebody who might act as a quality coach. So advising on best practice around quality and ensuring that. Oh, he had another type that Joe Stansfield's just mentioned, Scrummerfall. I've never heard that one.
No, I haven't either.
No, that's a new one on me. I'll have to look that one up later. But you may be in a team that's much smaller, or you're the only person who is handling quality. But you're not the only person handling quality. The whole organization believes in quality. But in terms of testing, your whole engineering team or the team that you're in may be responsible for testing work, but
Right.
you will be maybe the person that they turn to for. You
Nice
might be the
to
person that, yeah, exactly. Then maybe you might be the person that they turn to for advice about quality. So you'll be the kind of quality coach for them.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
loving these names.
Yeah, no, me too. No, so thanks very much, everyone, for putting that in the chat. That's really cool. Okay, well, so you've chosen three topics. So I kind of like sent out loads of topics, and the 3 you've chosen are great to start with. So bias in AI, leadership, and public speaking. And we had a conversation. So many people asked me about public speaking. I think it's one of the kind of scariest things that you have to do in your life, particularly if you haven't done it before. And I think, if you can kind of do it growing up, I think like kids in the States, it seems to me you have to do loads of kind of public speaking at school and stuff. And I think the first time that I had to actually give a talk at uni, I like almost died of a heart attack because I was so scared of it. But just kind of getting practice over the years and just gradually it just gets easier and easier. I'd love to hear your advice to people on public speaking. What would you say has helped you?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously was used to giving the odd presentation at work. And obviously that's different when you know the team that you're presenting to all the time. It's fine. You're not so nervous. But when you're doing public speaking, it's very different. I used to mentor people on how to give internal presentations for, say, an engineering chapter,
Yeah,
or if you wanted to then take that and give it to a public on a public stage, I've given that kind of advice as well. And it's been really, I always say to people, it's not the same as presenting to your internal team. They know you can make mistakes and they'll forgive you. They're
yeah,
forgiving. Not to say that your public speaking audience won't
right.
be forgiving, but it's very different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, I mean, so I feel like I suppose it wasn't really public speaking, but the first sort of standing up in front of lots of people I did was when I started teaching, and literally I didn't sleep the night before the first time I taught a class. It was when I was doing my PhD, and then like half an hour before the class, I just went and sat in a cubicle in the loo, and I remember thinking to myself, I'd rather die of a heart attack sitting here
Oh no.
than actually go and teach that class. I was so scared, and then I went in, and I just I kind of did a fake it till you make it. I just pretended I was my best friend at the time, who was an IT consultant. It sort of went around to different countries and like was it like international IT consultant. So I thought, well, I'm just going to pretend I'm her and just go in and just do what I think she would do. And amazingly, it actually worked. And I kind of like gradually built my way up from there, really. So were you nervous to start with, and then kind of it's changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprisingly to everybody on here, I am actually quite introvert. So all of my social batteries have been used up for this. After this, I'll go to bed. And when I first spoke on to public, if you like, on a public speaking thing, it was actually at Toastmasters.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody's heard of that, but I
I've heard
actually
of
went
it. Yeah.
to, yeah, I went to two or three Toastmaster sessions, and they throw you into the, lion's den basically.
Yeah.
And you've got no choice but to speak on the spot. And I did that a couple of times. I think after the third time, I didn't have the guts to go back, but
Yeah.
that was enough for me to be
Right.
okay speaking in public after that. And since then, obviously, I've done little events. I started on tiny events,
Yeah.
and then just built up from there. And then during the lockdown, there was lots of opportunity. To the person asking if they were any good, yes, they were very good. And
Okay.
I recommend them. Just find a group in your area. Not advertising that. But yeah, I've not really had any issues with
That's great.
speaking after doing lots of smaller
Yeah.
events and then just building my way up to doing bigger ones. And the lockdowns gave lots of opportunity to do online events and build up your skills that way.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Okay, so that's public speaking. Leadership's another topic that that you chose for us to talk about. What's your experience been with leadership so far?
It's been varied. As I say, I've spent half of my career contracting,
Yeah.
and you went for jobs as they came up. And so you get to do lots of different things, but you don't tend to. When I speak to people about leadership and I say to them, what does a leadership role look like to you? They'll say, oh, I get to lead my team in my particular area, or I get to go up to C-suite level. So it's different for different people. And for me, as I contracted, I was able to go up and down the ladder of
Yeah.
different roles, but never actually into a C-suite role. And I realized, and this is before I started volunteering for women in tech groups, etc. I realized that there just seems to be this blockage. You can't seem to get past it. It doesn't matter what you do. I worked with women who were highly qualified to be in leadership roles.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they were kept one level below, and
Mm.
always having to, there's always competition before them, so they never saw those roles. And I just thought to myself, as a contractor, I just want to do this for money, or because I like the project and I
Yeah.
want a role for the project. So I didn't really concentrate that much on leadership
Yeah.
until I went permanent, and then I was in senior engineering management, and I still felt like there was this blocker to reaching that C-suite dream that everybody has. And obviously during the lockdown, we focused a lot on diversity and inclusion, and it's become very, very visible to everybody, the lack of women in, unless they're starting their own startups and their own companies, that it's a very hard, or unless you're being really supported by a company that wants to make sure that women are making it up to that level, it's extremely difficult to get there. And we've got an awful lot of work to do to make it easier, or to give people the right skills so that they do get there.
That's true. And I think, well, even, like friends that have got startups, or startups looking for funding, is it like 1% of funding goes
Yeah.
to women, and like, I don't know, 0.1% to women of color or something? It's just absolutely ridiculous in terms of getting funded for startups. So there's still a long way to go. I mean, it's been great to see women like Arlen Hamilton and Backstage Capital in the US, who's set up the fund, which is for women, and people of colour, minoritized groups, which is great. I think that's the first fund that I've heard of that's doing that. But we need a lot more of that, I think. And so in terms of leadership roles within companies, within corporate environments, have you got any advice on what to do if you think you're not getting up the ladder and you should be? I mean, is what you're talking about the glass ceiling?
It is, yeah. I guess I'm referring to the glass ceiling, but I mean, I've also had really good conversations with companies that are doing loads to, you know, support women in tech, and also those that are middle management or those wanting to go middle management to C-suite. They're doing lots to support them. So, you know, obviously, I don't know if I can name some. I mean, I've spoken to people, let's say, for example, from NatWest, who have told me lots about the initiatives that they run, for example, for their staff. And it does look as though those kind of companies are really supporting women. And it doesn't seem like, as I saw in the comments, somebody was saying about the drop-off for D&I. I'm not seeing that in every organization. Where I'm seeing that the most is in smaller companies, in startups, for example, because it's no longer their focus. I know that McKinsey had a report a couple of years ago where they said that, you know, if you focused on DE&I, I think it would raise your the bottom line for the company. The profit would go up by 10% or more. I think it was more than 10% in another report they released. But you know, obviously those 2 years, 3 years from like 2020. I don't know if they were really able to turn that into profit and turn, you know, to really sell their products.
Yeah.
And now the frustration comes in the fact that now D&I is being pushed to the back, when actually it's just as important that we're supporting women to get to those leadership positions. So you've got companies that are telling people leadership looks like being in senior management, especially from a tech perspective. And that's okay for a while, but eventually this is where you get the drop off. People decide they're either leaving because they have children and they struggle to get back into the industry, or they're deciding, I'm not being supported to move up. I move across easily, but I'm not being supported to move up.
Yeah.
And so there's, you know, lack of motivation to stay. So we've got to try and figure out how to fix that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, so this podcast is called Life Without Limits. With, I think part of the conversation each time needs to be about overcoming challenges in life. So that could be personal, professional, whatever. Do you want to talk about a challenge that you've had and how you've overcome it, or challenges that you think maybe we all get and what you've done about it? So from your experience.
I think the lockdowns and being able to do more of this presenting, and then, you know, it raises your profile a little bit, you know, it's really helped me to be more confident, to be able to have the platform to speak about the issues that we have, but also then to work with brilliant people to try and resolve it, you know, and to work with organizations to make them better places for people to work in and feel like they want to stay. Me, it was amazing being able to join different organizations and being able to help. And it still is. I still, you know, often reach out to organizations, say, I'd love to give you some of my time. I'd love to help. And just being able to do that it's a joy for me, but it's also, I equally love to see people who are succeeding, or, you know, coming out of the other end of something and achieving great things, like getting new jobs. So, you know, I'm speaking for Tech Up next week, and that I'll do that twice this year. And, you know, it's a nice thing for me to do, because then I get to see the students, and I love to see that they are thinking about having, you know, careers in tech, and being able to help people like that is a joy to me.
Yeah.
So it's not really something I got over. I've had other stuff that's happened, but I think if I focus on the really positive things, it's being able to help other people as well as myself to, you know, to move up the ladder.
That's wonderful. And yeah, I have to say, the Tech Up program that we run at Durham, so Jen's here from Tech Up, but we've had 238 women go through the program now, and thanks so much for your help and support with that. but it's just been like one of the most amazing experiences of my life to see women come in quite often a bit unsure of what's going to happen, like when you join a new program or whatever. And just to really blossom throughout the program and then go on to interview and get jobs in tech and become role models and start winning prizes and awards and stuff. It's just the amount of pleasure that you get from that is just utterly incredible. I have to say, more than I would get from getting anything myself. It's just so wonderful to create things or help people to really achieve something is just such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, just being able for them to be able to figure out what it is that they want from their career, and then seeing them achieve it, even if it's just a first job, it's just so rewarding. It really is.
Yeah. So I highly recommend that to anybody. So your other topics, bias in AI, and I know you give talks about bias in AI. So I set up a group to chat about bias in AI at Durham University a while ago, along online group, so we've just kind of brought together people who are interested in bias in AI and talk about it from different perspectives. But I mean, I'd love to hear what you talk about in your bias in AI talks, and hopefully you'll give one for the group.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised I haven't actually.
Yeah, so am I. As I was saying it, I was thinking, did you give a talk?
No, I didn't. No, because I normally focus on it from it's an intersection between quality, bias, and AI, and the overlap, and also for the fact that I try to make quality teams understand, if they are quality teams or just the people responsible for quality within organizations, that there is a real emphasis on them being involved in these processes. I think we've now got this kind of like separation between groups. So you've got data scientists who, focus on the data science. The ethics team may be made up just of data scientists and not necessarily other areas of the business. You've got people outside speaking on ethics in AI, but I rarely see people talk about the quality aspects of that and the involvement of quality teams to ensure that they are getting involved in processes a lot sooner than they normally would in an agile setup, to make sure that they are, making sure that their teams are following good practice, but also equally giving their viewpoint as people who think slightly differently about how data is being used within organizations. That's really the talk that I give, but it can equally be applied to software engineers as well, about how they can become more involved, and not see it as a very high level blue sky thing that's got nothing to do with them. They're not just about building the software. They should actually care about the data that's being used within it as well.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So do you go out and give talks to companies about bias in AI, or what are the main things that you talk about in your public speaking?
So when I talk about bias in AI, I like to use examples of where, not necessarily just where it's gone wrong, but examples of where it's worked as well in society. So I like to look at things, for example, like from the fact that I went to the UN, I was with the UN Women UK group as an online delegate last year, not necessarily this year's one. It was the Commission for the Status of Women, and it was 67th meeting, and the main topics were around technology and availability and use by women and girls around the world. And some of the talks were not about AI in particular, but they mentioned things that just set off light bulbs in my head. So one of them was about, I think the app is called CBP1, and it's the US border app that basically they're using to help people to get across the border from Mexico into the US, and also people coming in from Haiti, for example, and the massive problems that they had when it had a massive launch last year. And immediately, within days, they were having problems with it and people were reporting problems. So you were having families separated from each other at the border, and because they couldn't recognize darker skin tones. Right. So if people traveled with people who had darker skin tones, they couldn't recognize the faces, and they weren't allowed to register on the app and couldn't travel, and it caused all kinds of problems. So it was problems like that I picked up, and I roll those things into the presentation, and I talk about those. I talk about different types of bias, and also what we can do as teams who work on products to make them stronger, make the data better, and encourage our teams to be thinking about the data that's being fed into the models. So yeah, that's what I
don't know if you heard, that was my HomePod coming on.
I just wondered what that was.
Who said I found some results? I don't know what of. Bison AI, Bison AI is going to send to me. That's funny. It's like sometimes it comes on, like there's one downstairs in the living room, and like we're just sitting watching TV, and it starts going, like
listening to you.
Technology. Yes, sorry, I got very slightly distracted there at the end. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So have you seen, I'm sure you must have done the film Coded Bias.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Right. So that's really powerful, because it just starts with Joy Buolamwini, who was at MIT and creating software to do some sort of facial recognition. And she's a Black woman with dark skin, and it didn't recognize her face at all. And then she had to put a white mask on for it to recognize that she had a face. I mean, it's just, it kind of...
But it's the silly things. I mean, that's a very serious thing, but there are silly things like there's a story from, I think it's from the Middle East, where somebody uses a soap dispenser in a bathroom and doesn't recognize the darker side of their hand, only the lighter side. And also their colleague who was white, they used the same machine and it worked. And you would never consider that a soap dispenser would have issues like that.
Yeah. But I mean, it just shows you that, you really need to think about diversity, particularly when you're creating software products that are going to be used by, loads and loads of people around the world. You need to kind of come at it from all angles. And if you've got a very sort of homogenous group of people creating the software or the products, then they're just not going to probably think about some of the things which, like those sort of instances, it's ridiculous that actually got through to being produced. But I always give the example, like from a while ago, of the automated checkout things in supermarkets. They're in supermarkets around the world, but I mean, they're not really fit for purpose. They've got a bit better over time, but just the fact that so many of those could be installed in supermarkets all around the world, and they don't really work. It's just amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. How are we doing for time? 38 minutes. So maybe it's time now for some questions from everybody in the chat. I've seen that some people have put some great comments in here, so thanks very much. And I think there was, so LinkedIn News, or I don't know who it is. Is there a generational issue here as well? Lots of different generations working together and different leadership styles. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is. And I probably think it was a problem that people realized. I keep going back to the lockdowns, but when we were all working in offices together, you could really see the difference. If you worked in organizations, even small ones that had quite a break in generational and like ages, so you could have boomers there as well as Gen X and millennials, for example, and you could really tell the differences between the three groups and the working styles, ways of wanting to work as well. And now being able to work from home quite a lot, it's helped people to maybe avoid some of these issues that were quite prominent before we started working from home. So I do think that there is something to be said about different generations and different leadership styles. I think we need to maybe look at those leadership styles and think about changing them or updating them or something, because something isn't working right now. It may be working for one set of people, but it's definitely not working for everyone, and not everyone's getting a fair chance to progress, and something has to change.
No, it is interesting, like kind of coming out from lockdown, and just, I think it's like, it just makes me think of when going to conferences, like academic conferences, and like you'd sit in some sessions and people might say some stuff that's a bit interesting, but actually all of the interesting, where you come up with new ideas and set up come up with collaborations for new research projects and stuff like that, is all in the coffee breaks or over lunch, and when people can sit around and chat to each other. And I think that's the one thing that was really missing, I guess, during lockdown, is that we just didn't have those chances to socialize. And actually, it just reminded me as well, when I went to the first sort of event I went to after lockdown, and that was really weird because I didn't know what to wear at all, because I'd been sitting at home in, like, I don't know, tracksuit bottoms and slippers or whatever for like 2 years, and then I got invited to this like kind of bit fancy dinner uptown. And I just had to like rack my brains, like, what did I wear when I went out and met people? Because I just couldn't remember at all. And then when I got there, I'm very used to like social occasions and chatting to people I don't know now. But like when I got there, I was like, I don't know what to say to anybody. So, it's like you build up those skills, but then if you don't use them for a while, they just kind of like disappear, and it takes a while to kind of get used to it again. So, yeah. Funny, right? So it'd be great to get some questions. We've even got
There's loads.
If I click on here, oh look, Q&A.
Oh.
Well, that's fancy, isn't it? Didn't know what that was going to look like. Does that look all right to everybody?
It does, but it's not showing anything. I can see the other questions though.
Yeah. Okay.
Shall I read one out and then answer it, or do
Yeah.
you?
Well, so I'll read
Okay.
it. A good leader is someone who's not afraid to show their vulnerability. Does that work in the case of women as leaders who are still trying to carve out their space in leadership positions? That's a very good question.
I'm guessing that everybody's everyone's individual, right? And at the end of the day, they have their own leadership style. They will also have their own personality type. If you are a decent person, you'll probably want to be as authentic as possible and be as real as possible. So changing the way you are personality wise, just because you want to carve out a leadership position, that won't give everybody the authentic experience of you. So I think you probably do see that a lot. I used to think, when I did see women in leadership when I contracted, they'd always be giving a quite, what I felt was at the time was quite masculine energy. Like they were trying to match the people they were working with.
Right.
And they almost were totally different to the person I'd known before they got into that role. And whilst I fully supported them getting into the role, there was a little bit of disappointment that they seemed to be trying to act like something else in order to be accepted. And I kept thinking, that's just totally unfair. You should be your own authentic self, and that should be accepted when you go to the office, or when you move into a leadership role. And it's not always the case.
So do you think that sometimes that's because of the culture, and because the culture is not supportive of that, right? Then you can't actually be yourself, which is not a good sign within an organization, really, if people can't be themselves.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to foster an environment where people can be their true authentic selves, which doesn't always happen. And you have to then be thinking whether or not that's an organization you want to still be working in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I know, like sometimes, because I don't know exactly when I started talking about some of the more difficult things that happened in my past. I mean, I didn't talk about them for a long time at work. But then I think it was probably when I was head of department at University of Westminster, I did some media training. And as part of that, we had to kind of like practice, I don't know, saying something to camera and stuff. And at the end of the day, I can't remember what the brief was, but I ended up talking about domestic violence and having to run away from home with 3 little kids. And the woman that was training us was like, you've got to talk about, like, it's great if you can talk about these things, because it really helps people who've been through the same experience feel that they can get out of it as well and kind of move on and be successful. And so I guess that's when I started about talking about that sort of stuff. But it did you know, I needed to get quite a bit of distance away from it first of all. So I think, you know, like you were saying, it kind of depends on you and what you're comfortable with talking about. But I think also another thing, actually going back to public speaking, is if you want to connect with your audience, showing some sort of vulnerability, I think can really help with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't talk about it often. I've just given an interview a few weeks ago, which I talked about it in depth. And it's the first time in 5 years that I actually talk about the death of my ex-partner, and, you know, and how it affected my thought process. I just wanted to give as much as I could and do as much as I you know, possibly could to help other people. I'd spent nearly 5 years helping somebody, and as well as working full time and as well as being a mum. So all of these, you know, to a toddler, it was a lot. But at the time, I just felt like I've just got to keep doing this because he hasn't got the chance to, you know, do this anymore, and I need to really live my life as best I can, and I need to give as much help to people as I can. And it just, yeah, it went on from there. But it's not something I talk about all the time, and, you know, I've mentioned it here, but, you know, that's as far as I'll take it today, because I've done it in another interview, which I'm going to post again this week on LinkedIn. But you know, it's a lot for, you know, people to, you know, to take in. But, you know, there are different things in your life that really trigger you to do the you know, things you do, how you get into your career. I mean, look at you and all the studying that you did. You know, I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you at the time.
Yeah, no, it was. But it wasn't as hard as some of the other things that had happened before that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think sometimes, you know, if you do have difficult times in life, not that I'd wish that on anybody, but it helps you to not be too traumatized when harder things happen, like in the future afterwards, which if you've never had anything difficult to cope with, and I think that actually must be harder. You know, I suppose having some hardship can be helpful, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Builds resilience, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, have we got any more questions? Please put your questions in the chat. I'm looking. I love all of the fragile and scrummaform.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of any of those, so it's interesting seeing those. Be great to get some questions from Nicola now. Are there any others? Can you see any others?
No.
Come on, everybody.
No, I think that's it.
No, okay. I thought I was missing them. Yeah, so I guess, well, how long have we been going? Oh, it's nearly 10 to 9. So maybe it's time to wrap up, actually, anyway. It's been absolutely wonderful chatting to you. Thanks very much for your time. That went so quickly. It feels like 10 minutes. Oh, right, we've got a question. Joe. Joe saves the day. So it probably
the most rewarding project I've worked on.
Yeah.
I would say it was PlayStation, because I got to take games and home and things like that. So that was fun, because my brother thought I was cool for a while. That was fun. But I mean, other than that, I've worked on like the MP's expenses system when that first started. That was really insane. Very much like press outside the door every day.
Wow.
Very
What were you doing? How come you were doing that?
Because the public were demanding that the government set up a system because they were getting all of the requests for things like duck moats and I don't know, private schools being paid for and things, and the public were in uproar. So they set up the system. I can remember being in the office 2 days before they'd actually fitted it out properly. I had to go around in a visor, like a yellow jacket and hat thing.
Oh, like high vis.
High vis. And it was just really just crazy. It was just a really crazy setup, and I had to work in it before it was even ready to go. I did BA work there for a while and then testing, and it was pretty intense, and we had MPs walking in and out of the office all the time, wanting to know how we were doing or what was happening and when was it all going to be done. And it was a huge thing to put together, but we had little time to put all the pieces together to make a system that they could use. And we saw lots of expenses claims, and quite shocked the papers weren't making up a lot of them. They were genuine. So
crazy times. Well, that's mad. Well, I think we probably should. It's 10 to 9. Stop there. Thanks everyone so much. It would be. Have you got any URLs or anything you'd like to share with anybody, or
if you go to my LinkedIn profile, there's a link at the top. It says my website. Click on that and you'll find all the bits and pieces to find me. I'm usually on LinkedIn there.
Okay, that's wonderful. We've got another question. I think it's taken a while for people to post questions. Have you ever had a female leader inspire you with their leadership style, and what was it they exhibited at the time that made you feel they were great?
I did actually, but it was years ago, and it was probably in the second tech job I had. There was just this woman that was just amazing. She just, I just didn't know how she had the energy to do everything that she did, and also just be able to lead this massive team, and just everybody absolutely loved her. And it was probably one of the only times I saw somebody in quite a senior position for a long time after that, because I went to work for smaller companies and you just didn't see it.
Right.
So I mean, over the years, I've seen people mostly that I work with that inspire me, and that's in volunteering, as as well as day to day, as opposed to people who are actually now in leadership. I really look to the people I work with and the people who are coming up who also inspire me in kind of like a reverse way. It's inspiring to see people who are, maybe changing career to come into tech. They're the ones that are really brave doing that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Absolutely. So we've got another question now. If you're still okay to keep going, from Zaki. How can management create a culture where team members feel more comfortable to be themselves and express their opinions?
I think it's got to come from leadership down. They've got to, whatever ideas people come in with about how they can make changes, and especially senior management might have all the ideas in the world, but if leadership themselves, C-suite, doesn't actually agree with any of that and doesn't believe that any of it is something that they want as part of the culture, then it's never going to work, because you need buy-in from everybody, and everyone has to take it on as a responsibility to build the culture of the organization, and then to make it part of every day, so you don't even have to think about it. Just being respectful of people and their opinions, and how they present themselves, etc. Just be respectful of that every day, and you can have a great organization, and people will build fantastic products for you. But if you don't have that, you're constantly fighting to justify why you want to do something from a D&I perspective, then that's a problem. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Right. Well, I think we will end it there. Some false starts and some false finishes. It's been really, really wonderful. Thank you very much, Nicola. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I can tell from people's comments in the chat that they have too. Thanks very much, everyone, for the great questions. So you can find both Nicola and me on LinkedIn. And anything else you want to promote, Nicola, at the moment?
Not at the moment, but okay. Thank you for having me. I thank you for allowing me to be your guinea pig today. And you did very well. Congratulations.
Well, so next week I've got another amazing guest whose name is Larissa Suzuki, who's I can't remember exactly her title because I forgot to write it down, and but she leads, I think, the cloud team at Google in London, and is also working with NASA. So she's doing lots of really, really exciting stuff. That will be at 7 p.m. next Monday. Larissa's I can't remember how many weeks pregnant, and she said that she gets really tired in the evening, so 8 o'clock is too late for her. So we're going to do it at 7 o'clock next week. But she's absolutely amazing, And I'm really looking forward to hopefully being just a bit more professional with Larissa next week, a bit more organised. But thanks very much again, Nicola. That's been absolutely amazing. And thanks very much, everyone, for joining us, and see you next week.
Bye.